Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, head of crime intelligence in the South African Police Service, has defended the controversial appointment of Brigadier Mokwele. Before this role, Mokwele worked as a mechanical engineer at BMW, not a police officer. So, how did she get promoted to the role of brigadier? Now, before we get into it, remember to immediately hit that like button and subscribe. And all I ask is for you to keep an open mind. I was one of the people who was repeating the narrative about a BMW employee until someone corrected me and I went and did some research. And now I'm going to share it with you. And at the end of what I have presented, if you still feel as though she was parachuted into this role, comment below. I love debate as long as we keep it respectful. Now, the first thing that we have to look at here is the charges. This happened on the 26th of June, 2025. This was days before General Mkhwanasi did his 6th of July presser on our Independence Day, where he made those explosive allegations. And we have to talk about a few things here because General Khumalo was head of the PKTT. Remember that unit that was investigating a certain Kat Matlala as well as a Katie Malefe? He was the head of that unit and he was working closely with them in crime intelligence. And we also know that Sensor Nkunu sent out that disbandment letter on the 31st of December 2024 asking for the immediate disbandment of the PKTT, but in actual fact, the unit was never disbanded. Although they carried on doing their job, they lost a lot of authority. People said you disbanded. Why should we let you arrest people, among other things? And they lost a lot of morale. So it is important to remember who would want to have General Khumalo removed from crime intelligence. And I do believe that there was an active plot against him. There were some WhatsApps that talked about the Mkhwanasi problem. We're going to play some clips here, and I want you to think openly about this. So let's examine what was said in an interview that Paul O'Sullivan gave around 6 months ago. And I'm going to link everything below. I want you to go watch it in full because I don't want to be seen as taking things out of context, because we are going to be talking about some of the allegations against General Khumalo. And to give some context, this is when Sensor Nkunu was still the Minister of Police. So I want you to listen to this and wonder why, for example, General Khumalo does not want to speak to the Deputy National Commissioner.
Paul, to be fair, the minister, Senzo Mkhunu, the police minister, has dismissed yesterday's media reports of an imminent arrest of Fani Masemola as speculative. Your response to that?
Yeah, I think it probably is speculative. I have no personal knowledge of an immediate arrest going to happen, but he is under investigation. The reality of the situation is that crime intelligence has spent vast sums of money, public funds, and it's been done whilst Khumalo has been reporting to Masemola. Now, Khumalo was supposed to, in terms of the organogram of the police, was supposed to report to a Deputy National Commissioner, and he flatly refused to report to that Deputy National Commissioner and said he only wanted to report to the Commissioner, which is Masemola. And Masemola, instead of putting his foot down and saying, no, there's the organogram, you're supposed to report to the Deputy National Commissioner, he allowed that situation to prevail. And that then begs the question, what was going on between them?
Now, for some context here, the Deputy National Commission at the time was Shadrack Sabia. Remember that same Shadrack Sabia that when Kat was talking to Witness C on those recordings. He was spilling all the tea and saying that he gave him allegedly 2 million rand in a dustbin, in the police bathroom dustbin. That same Shadrach Sabir. So here we can see that there is clearly tension that is going on between the fractions. We knew about this. We knew it is the Shadrach Sabir, the Senzo Mkhunu faction, against the General Mkhwanasi, as well as the Fani Masimola and General Khumalo fraction. And we need to take this into account, because from my own personal opinion, they, in my own opinion, were looking for anything to try and get General Khumalo out of crime intelligence. Because guess what? One of the conditions of his bail was that he was not allowed to return to office. And this is important because he was charged with was fraud and falsification of documents. That is not a work offense. There is no reason why that specific bail application should.
The officers that were arrested alongside Lieutenant General Khumalo last week as part of their bail conditions, those that are out, because not all of them are out, part of their bail conditions are not to go anywhere near the premises of crime intelligence. Who's fighting the bad guys then?
Well, they've never been fighting the bad guys anyway.
Now, remember, this is at a time when the PKTT is still pushing through. They have not been disbanded, but the dockets have already been sent. Remember, those dockets were sent in March. And we have to talk about this fight that is going on, because I honestly think that this is one of the reasons that pushed General Mkhwanasi to come public, because I feel as though he was backed into a corner and he didn't know where to go because they were surrounding him. They've taken out crime intelligence. They've taken out, for example, the head of the PKTT, and they might have been gunning for Fani Masimola, as you see in that interview. And then General Mkhwanasi was going to be next. So that is why he was pushed to do the 6th of July, our Independence Day presser.
Khumalo and co. were arrested on charges of corruption and fraud. One of the things that's been reported is the appointment of a friend's child who himself allegedly squashed an investigation.
Yeah, so it seems that the Times reported that it was a reward for squashing the investigation, but I don't think it was. I think it was a reward for not speaking out about who else was involved with him in squashing that investigation, because he'd been arrested already, and that was involved. That was to do with political killings that were taking place in KZN. So really, at the end of the day, that cop, who appears to have gone off the radar screen, we don't hear anything about his trial. And when he's going to go to prison, we hear nothing about it. So you have all these major generals and lieutenant generals engaged in criminal activity. And then when they want the job, in fact, I wrote to her and I suggested to her that she would be better going back to BMW, but she didn't take the bait. She stayed at crime intelligence, and now she's on trial, and she won't be accepted back at BMW.
I mean,
what type of creepy laugh was that happened in the end? That sounded really creepy to me. Just my own personal opinion. So what Paulo Sullivan is referring to there is an arrest, and it is true that Brigadier Mokwele, her father, was arrested in January 2025. And this was fully reported by the Sunday Times. And I'm just going to read a paragraph of it, but I want you to go read the whole article. So it says here, it's linked below, a senior SAPS source claimed on Saturday. So let's work with that sentence. A senior SAPS source. I think I can think of a few names of who might be the Sunday Times source, because they are going to be saying a lot of stuff to the Sunday Times here. That Mokwele's appointment was payment to her father, Brigadier Mokwele, for squashing an investigation into a political killing in Limpopo. The source, this senior SAPS source, claimed that the relationship was no accident. And in quotes, while this was not what he himself was arrested, Mokwele helped make a docket go away that had SAPS political task team members as suspects. Now, he was arrested in January for attempting to bribe a police officer to influence a criminal investigation into a Limpopo councillor. He is currently on bail. So this information that you are getting, that her appointment was due to what he did for the PKTT, this is coming from a senior SAPS source. Now, comment below who you think the senior SAPS source is, because I can think of a few names, especially one that starts with an S. And also, the name starts with an S and the surname also starts with an S. Now, for the rest of the interview, he has all these allegations against other people, such as General Khumalo. We dealt with that in the Paul O'Sullivan versus General Khumalo video. I don't want to rehash them. Please go watch that video in the Paul O'Sullivan playlist if you are interested, where I put Paul's side out as well as Mkonasi's side out, and we compare them, because that's what we do on this channel. And we have to remember that this case against Dineo Mokwele was registered by Paul O'Sullivan. He is very proud about this fact.
Of course, it is our top story, so we're going to continue with it then. A police crime intelligence boss, Major General Khumalo, and co-accused have been granted 10,000 Rand bail in their fraud and corruption case. However, the CFO, Major General Philani Lushaba, has been remanded in custody as he has a pending case of corruption. Paul O'Sullivan, a forensic consultant and criminologist, joining us live now. Paul, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Let's very quickly get your reaction to that bail hearing overall, and I suppose the sentiment around this matter and crime intelligence again in the news.
Well, I think these people knew that the net would be closing in on them. I personally spoke to accused number 7, which is Brigadier Mokwele. I spoke to her in January, and I asked her to explain how she got appointed at the age of 29 years, how she got parachuted into the Crime Intelligence Division at the rank of Brigadier, when there are people there that have been serving for 30 or 35 years who haven't even achieved the rank of Brigadier, and they must now report to this young lady who knows nothing about policing. And she told me I should speak to head office. So instead of speaking to head office, I spoke to IDAC, the minister, and the office for, the Office of the Inspector General for Intelligence. And I had several meetings with them in my offices, and we packaged everything up and we gave it to them. But the reality is that we have now 5 generals and 2 brigadiers that have been arrested within a 24-hour period and arraigned in court. Of the 7, 6 have been granted bail, in very small amounts, by the way. I can't believe that somebody can commit such serious crimes and only be granted bail of 10,000 Rand. Of course, they would probably have to hand in their passports and report their movements to the investigating officer.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is they will have to stand trial, and my understanding is that the matter is trial ready. So we should see some action here, and hopefully it will re-establish the credibility of IDAC, or the the Investigative Directorate Against Corruption, and it should also establish the ability of the police to have new leadership in crime intelligence, because without a doubt, the current head of crime intelligence has been running crime intelligence in much the same way that Richard Ndluli did.
Yeah.
And he treated it as a family business. And that's exactly what Khumalo's been doing. He's been running it as a family business.
So Paul O'Sullivan is the one who made the case against General Khumalo. He admits it there. He says, my office got the evidence. We registered the case with the SAPS. And another thing that we have to think about is, in this interview, who does he do a lot of bashing of? A certain General Khumalo. And after this segment, we are going to go into the qualifications. We are going to go into the qualifications for the post. We are going to go over Brigadier Mokwele's qualifications and see if she is fit for that role. Because remember, this is not just a normal policing post. This is in crime intelligence. The requirements are sometimes different. But like I said, keep an open mind and stay with me until the end. So when I started covering all of this, I had just joined YouTube. My YouTube channel is, I think, only a few months old. I had joined TikTok and I was starting to investigate this, cover this sort of stuff. And I was one of the people who repeated the narrative about the BMW employee because it had been so well spread. And someone corrected me, because that's what we do on this channel. If you get information wrong, correct me. I always appreciate constructive corrections. And this, basically now what you're going to listen to, is probably what you understand about Brigadier Mokwele's appointment.
I had attacked Masemola and called for his resignation or dismissal if he did not suspend the 5 generals and 2 brigadiers that had been arrested the previous week. Now, I had opened criminal complaints against the 5 generals and 2 brigadiers, which all rotated. You may recall that you did an interview with me on the 5th of January this year, where I talked about the 29-year-old girl that worked at BMW that was parachuted into crime intelligence in the position of a brigadier. And she had serving police officials at the rank of captain and colonel who had to report to her now. And they had, most of them had 30 or 35 years police experience. They had more police experience than she had years on the planet. And now suddenly they're reporting to this young girl who knows diddly squat about policing. And I thought this was an absolute disgrace. But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
I don't like the fact that he calls her a girl, personally. I'm probably also just some random girl. But anyway, she is a 29-year-old woman. And like I said, she has a mechatronics degree. And at the time she was working for BMW, she was not working as a salesperson for BMW. She was working in their electronics. And we are also going to talk about that she was also doing an MBA at the time. And let us listen to how General Khumalo explained her appointment, because he did.
Let me take you to paragraph 186. And that's the paragraph concerning the appointment of Brigadier Mokwele, who used to work for BMW before her appointment. Am I correct that she was appointed directly from BMW
That is correct.
to be a brigadier in SAPS?
That is correct, Commissioner.
What were the advertised requirements for the position?
We were looking for the head of our technical support services. Without detailing it that much, so as we don't expose our covert methodologies, but it's a person, firstly, who's qualified in mechatronics, a person who can combine both mechanical engineering and electronical engineering to suit our covert activities needs. So those people are normally found then in these environments like BMW or Ford, or because they are doing both electronical and mechanical engineering, or qualified, and they have experience.
Was she based at the manufacturing plant, not at a dealership?
I cannot be able to be quite sure in terms of the separation, but what I know is she was a supervisor of technicians that are doing mechanical and electronic work in the manufacturing part of the car.
So did you hear that? This was not a normal policing post. This was actively looking for someone in crime intelligence to help with their covert operations. And when she applied, she was supervising other technicians at BMW. So, can you already see how this narrative of a 29-year-old BMW employee who is a girl has been so damaging?
Would you say that she met the advertised requirements?
According to us as the panel that recommended her as candidate number one, she did meet all the requirements.
Thank you, General.
General, I had a question on this, which is
The hard question, the question that many of you have been asking me in the comments section in the Paulo Sullivan video from yesterday, that is going to be asked right now. And I want you to listen. And I want you to see if you accept this explanation because, spoiler alert, the post was advertised first within the police. And I will just let General Khumalo explain it because I think he does a pretty good
from outside of the police service, with no experience in policing, would be brought into the service and given a fairly senior rank from the outset.
Yes. No, thank you, Commissioners. I won't be long on that. I'll first refer to my response when the Commissioner asked as to what were we looking for. We were looking for a qualified mechatronics person, not a police officer like me. My experience and qualifications were irrelevant to the post. So we first advertised the post internally, and then the process moved on until the panel by then could not find a suitable candidate, which is a policy within SAPS. And then that panel recommended for the post to be advertised externally, so as then we can get people that are qualified for the work that for the person that you are looking for. That's how then once the post is externally advertised, it's not only limited to brigadiers and generals. There are posts that are advertised on newspapers of a qualified Reverend Muruti. And those people then, because we are not Barutis, police officers, then a Muruti who's qualified and registered with a particular Baruti organization then will apply and qualify, come in and be given that rank that was advertised. So in the police, it's not something that does not happen. We have a lot of senior officers that came in from the level of a brigadier. Some, they came in from a level of a major general. Not, or maybe let me make one example, the living example. The current divisional commissioner at the level of a lieutenant general, who is a lieutenant general, is from the National Treasurer Department. 2 years ago, was appointed by SAPS as a divisional commissioner, who is a lieutenant general. It's another fresh example that we can see, because SAPS was looking for particular qualifications and experience that SAPS could not find within.
the case against General Khumalo, the latest updates on it. So on the 26th of June 2025, Khumalo, along with 6 other senior police officials, were arrested. They now faced fraud and corruption charges specifically related to how Mokwele was appointed. But let's remember something now, is that among those bail conditions, they were not allowed in crime intelligence. And why is this important? This is important because behind the scenes, we know that there was an active, according to testimony that has come out in the Madlanga Commission, plot to take out the PKTT, the same PKTT that was investigating the alleged Big Five, KT Malefe, Kat Ntlala. And what we have here is we have to ask a question. We have to ask a question. Why did they want so badly to get General Khumalo out of his offices? Why did they do this? These are the questions. And we know that as of last year, the latest updates in the case, that General Khumalo was cleared in an eternal SAPS probe into this appointment. And we also know that some of his bail conditions were relaxed and that he has been reinstated as head of crime intelligence. Now, comment below if your mind has changed. I'm going to put links to all the newspaper articles, all the media articles that I used in the comments in the description below, and go and watch them all and make up your own mind and come back here and tell me and ask questions, because that is what we're here for. We are here to ask questions. We are here to question, because if we don't question, then people get away with things. Now, thank you to all my members. You sponsored the plant fund behind me. We had a little bit of a pest problem. I was away for a few days and a fungus set in. And it's setting in the roots, much like corruption, where you can't see it. And I only noticed it when some of my plants started looking unwell. But I am fighting it. And as you can see, the plants are looking a little bit happier. And some of them have been moved to what I call my plant hospital. So thank you so much to all my members. I appreciate you. And next episode, we are going to be talking a little bit about Tembisa. Can I give you guys an interesting figure before we go? To loot the amount of money from Tembisa Hospital, someone who is working normal wage, minimum wage in South Africa would have to work full time for 14,000 years, nonstop. That is the type of money that we are talking about. And that is why Babita had to die. Now, please remember to hit that like button and to comment so that the YouTube algorithm pushes this content to more people.